author, a writer, a poet, and an artist. I love doing anything creative, basically. So my people that know me the most for is my new book that's been released, which is called Written. So Written is very close to me. It was very therapeutic. I was writing because I was dealing with a lot of trauma in my life, and writing gave me a place to put those thoughts and collect my ideas and reconcile what was going on. The story I tell in the fictional sense is really kind of in a way an expression of what was really going on, but told through the eyes of my characters. I think when people read the book, they will find it very immersive emotionally, because a lot of the writing is from a place where it's very close to me. They're real feelings, real ideas and events that actually made me want to write it in the first place. So it is something very much close to me and my experiences. So there's a concept in the book which goes right the way through the narrative of the book, and that is Eleanor's journey through her life and her experiences has always told her to seek her inner truth, her inner golden wisdom. And a lot of the time when we experiencing different events in our life, we tend to not be guided by our intuition. So one thing that is really close to me and close to how I overcame a lot of the challenges is looking at your inner wisdom and seeking your inner golden truth. So I think this is a really important message, especially for women that feel like they don't have any choices in terms of what they're experiencing. They have to go through this. So some of the examples in Eleanor's case was she was abused. She suffered domestic abuse, violence from her husband at the time, and she felt compelled to stay in that situation. When she started to realize that these choices that she was making weren't right for her and were not fit for her anymore, it was important for Eleanor to take a step in the direction of her inner truth, her golden truth, which was always there. And I think that's really important for women to really be guided by that, rather than be guided by a lot of the external forces which often trigger people to take the wrong direction in life. My real aim for this book is to get the message to women all over the world that they have a choice. I think one thing that I felt in my life, which I felt powerless at times, was that I felt like I didn't have a choice. But choice was there all along. It's a case of how much you believe in making the right choices for you. And I think this is something that women all over the world should come to the same, arrive at a conclusion which is going to help them, their well-being. And the more women know about that, the more the world will be in a better place. This book took around 16 years to write, and like I said earlier, it was a journal. It started off as a journal, and it was just small nuggets of information, which then eventually became a story. The way in which I tend to write is, this book actually I wrote on the train back. So I would walk to the station. It would take about 8 minutes to walk to the station. And in that time, I would start to really feel present in the moment. So the noises, the sounds, the wind, all these things actually help me inspire the right type of tone, setting, background to the story or the chapter in the book. So when I'm writing, I take inspiration from lots of different things. I touch and feel things. I listen to the sounds of things. to help me conjure the right narrative, the right descriptions, and the right type of language in the book. And so when people read the book, they will probably feel that, that experience. I really want the reader to feel immersed and right in the room with those characters, and that really helps me fulfill that aim when I'm writing stories. In this case, a lot of research went into this book. It's my first novel, so I was researching by reading a lot of books that are quite similar for the audience that I want to target. So reading really helps, especially with the writing process. But in terms of researching some of the topics in the book, such as domestic violence, sexual abuse, some of the traumatic experience that Eleanor faces, I did a lot of reading around the UN, UN Women, the foundations, the type of things that can help people in those situations overcome them. So that was very important to me, to be able to do a lot of that type of research. The other area that I felt that I needed to do in terms of research was how I put a story like this together, because there were so many parts, there were so many types of situations that Eleanor was going through. So my real aim was to try and bring that back, the cultural side, the emotional side, all of this. How do I bring that together? And one of the ways in which I learned to do that was by creating an outline similar to what you would do with a painting, and drawing that picture, and then looking at how I can make that picture more effective, more colourful, more strong and vibrant. So I used that to actually help me draft up the manuscript and look at how I can actually bring the whole story together. Research-wise, it's quite important to be able to draw on all these different aspects of these characters to be able to bring the story together, and it was an important aspect, especially in the 16 years it took to write it. So yeah, it was quite an experience. I think Khaled Hosseini is one of my all-time favorite authors. He's written a number of books. The one that's my favorite is The Kite Runner, which is about a little boy and his friendship with his brother. And that was something that I read over and over again because the story was so powerful and compelling. But I also really like Maya Angelou. She's a great inspiration to me. I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings, for example, is something that I really relate to. There are some numerous other books as well, which I love reading, and authors that really do inspire me. But reading is a habit which I have incorporated as part of my writing career. I write and read different books of different genres to try and see how other authors write their story in the most compelling way for that particular genre. So if anybody wants to write, I would advise that you just get started, because writing is a very natural and organic creative process, and it's about you telling people that you want to share this advice or knowledge or story with about what you voice, what your opinion is, what your voice is. So I think that writing shouldn't be, I prefer not to get advice from people about my creative writing and my process, because when you do that, you start to lose creative control, and your ideas and your opinions is what people value the most. So I urge people that are starting out as a writer to just go with the flow. Let your creativity be your inspiration. Let your tiny thoughts, those little nuggets of information that people are going to be craving for, be your guiding light, and let it evolve. When I first started writing, it started off as a journal. It was tiny fragments of information, thoughts, feelings that I put down on paper. And as I continued doing that, I eventually found that I had written about 40,000 words, and which was almost halfway to a novel. And I thought, well, this is really interesting material, and I'm sure that anybody reading this would actually find it valuable, and hence why I'm here. Putting together my thoughts around my next book, I do have a really amazing idea for a novel, which once I'm developing, is brooding, it's coming. It's probably going to be at least another year and a half before we hear more news about this one. I just wanted to focus a little bit on this particular book and really get the message out to women about this book and how they can face their fears and struggles with some of the topics that are described in the book. But my next book is going to be another psychological fiction or literary fiction, but concentrating on memory, which is something that's intriguing to me.